All right. Got Rick Jewers coming in. I'll be here in just a second. Let's see. Here we go. How's it going, everybody? I'm gonna get Rick in here in just a second. He'll be here in just a minute. Just give him a second. These shows resonate with you, please share. We would appreciate it. There he is. How's it going, everybody? 41 people in the house. There's Rick. Bring him on while I share to the network. Oh, he may have a slow connection. There he is. All right, let's start video. One more share. Can you hear me, Rick?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm going to turn you up. I'm going to turn you up in just a second.
Okay.
Let me just get this share in. I don't see your face. I don't see your beautiful face. Don't make it. There you are. I was going to say, don't make everybody look at me the whole time.
Well, you're beautiful as well.
Yeah. All right. We got 58 people in the house. And I guess you're in, where are you now?
Okay. One question, Todd. Was a little bit new to what I was used to.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. I should have a good link here. Can I share this link?
Yeah, you can share that link. Anybody that gets that link can watch it in Zoom, or they can go to my page. And you want me to share it to your page?
No, just share it here on the messenger and I'll share it to my page.
Yeah, it's the same one I sent you. It's the same one I sent you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Right on.
Okay, just copy and paste.
You should be able to, yeah, you should be able to copy and paste that. Hang on, let me make sure you're okay on that. Let's see, hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that little, yeah, the top part, the blue part.
Yeah.
HTTPS to that long number. Just
okay.
send that to whoever you want.
I'm just gonna post it out there in a post, okay?
Yeah, the top part, the blue part. All right, let's see. Okay, we got it. All right. This was a typical Todd and Rick show collaboration where we just happened to connect 3 or 4 hours ago. So this should be pretty interesting for the next hour. I'd like to hear how Rick's trip's been going.
Yeah, of course. Okay. We
have an interesting synchronicity. It's your travel partner's birthday today, and it's mine too.
Okay, Sharon's, you mean?
Yeah, it's Sharon's birthday today, and it's mine too.
Yeah, excellent. And yours as well. Yeah, that is very interesting indeed.
It is.
Yeah.
You can't make this stuff up, man. You cannot make this shift up.
Yeah, indeed. Of course. I'm in a different location again. I usually am. I'm going to try just to shut off the light there and see what occurs with that. Okay. That okay?
Yeah, you look fine. You look great. Perfect.
Hey, thank you, bro.
Yeah.
About today.
So what's been happening? Let me see if I got this right. You started out on the Pacific coast of Canada, made a declaration to the community, and proceeded across Canada. And then I guess your old Betsy turned into Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and you flew and sailed across the ocean and landed somewhere in Europe.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So we flew across and, of course, needed to be over here with the divine direction. I did not anticipate coming here, Todd, and I kind of really didn't want to. However, at the last moment, I asked Father, do we go? And Father's reply was, it would be very beneficial. With a smile. So great. So here I am, and short. So doing lots of cool things there. And what I wish to share, as always, for the most part, with many of us, we're not told what will occur before we get somewhere. It usually happens in the moment. And, I go by the divine, solid divine direction where I must go. Sometimes I'm only told an hour ahead of time, if you will. So it's always an exciting and very fulfilling journey because of that. And it keeps the boredom out of what we're doing, even though at the soul level we know what we're doing. It's just that at some times it's not in the consciousness.
Yeah, and sometimes I can relate to you, know that. And sometimes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. What's good for the soul is not always easy on the human aspect. But
Oh no, we get used to it. No, it's always good. There is no bad, and just follow the signs. No resistance. That is the easiest path.
yeah, that's right. And it does get easier, slowly but surely. It does. But you're right. You get that call, and then oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
Okay,
fine.
we're good now. We're good now. My mic went off. Go ahead. Keep on going.
Yeah, excellent. So over here in Europe, Todd, Sharon had to go back to uh, Long Island, U.S., to take care of some family business and matters, and so I am physically here, home alone, if you will. But we're never alone, of course. But yeah, so it's putting in a lot of road miles. Um, we had to get a rental car. What the divine instructions were: no, don't fly. Father said no bus, no train, which would have been, let me say, much more cheaper. And however, it wasn't what we were supposed to do. We actually needed our foot on the ground, our energy in many areas. And let me say, no, it could not have been done what was required to be done here any other way than being in a vehicle.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to be said for that. There really is. Um, we've been doing this, um, well, since together, you know, with some gaps, but both of us have actually been kind of doing it when we're apart and when we're
Mhm.
together, but especially now, get the call and it's time to go. And you're right. The directions and the guidance doesn't always come in. Well, it doesn't come in really even days in advance. you know,
Yeah.
it just comes in and you got to go.
Well, indeed, a prime example of that, Todd, was I was up in Sheffield, England, north of London. I had anticipated to meet with another divine brother, perhaps that day. And when I got up, I got a call. I had to go to, I got a call from Fathers. He said, go to the Glastonbury tour and Stonehenge. And,
Wow.
I did not meet with that divine brother yet. However, the priority was I had to go to those locations. And again, that happened more or less in the spur of the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, did you get to see anybody in the community over in Glastonbury?
I did not, let's per se, meet anyone that we knew or that I knew. I had attempted to touch base with Amanda Lawrence. I had really wanted to connect with her while I was there, but she did not answer my messages. So that was divinely not supposed to be.
Yeah.
Um, I did meet, everywhere I go, I do meet with new individuals, and there's an energetic transfer of codes and
Yeah.
energy and all of this, with everyone that we meet, especially new ones. So the answer is no. At Stonehenge, actually, when I got there, it was in the night. I was there for about 3 hours. I did not um, physically meet anyone at that location, although I did meet a security guard that was there just for a few moments and another guy, but let me say there wasn't anything that we spoke about that was like spiritual or what we're
Yeah.
doing.
So let me ask you, what do you think we're doing here? What I mean by that is you and Sharon and people like you and like Morgan and I mean, Morgan started asking a few months ago, where are we all going? Seems like everybody's hitting the road, or not everybody, but there's people hitting the road.
Yeah.
Are we all going to the same place, or what's going on? Do you have any intel on that?
Well, indeed, what we're doing, it's very important. And yes, we are going to where we need to be, but we're creating the great change by interacting with everyone. And let's say we can say that in a human 3D thought form, you could say we are going blind. However, we're not going blind at all. We are following the soul that exists for all time and knows what occurs. And we are not constant in time. And what we are actually doing at this important time is we are knitting, if you will, knitting the network all together with the light.
Yeah.
Everyone we come into contact with, there is a transfer of energetic codes, and there are certain divine events that does occur that advances others to even higher levels. The physical unity is so important. So there's always things being done, even if you just meet with someone and just have a conversation, perhaps a spiritual conversation, or it even doesn't need to be that. there is this energetic transfer. And we all know that the energetics is very real. Anyone that has
Yeah.
their Merkaba activated, their Kundalini, any empath knows that this is very real. And so this does occur. There's a lot of energetic purveyance that goes on many levels, including the consciousness. So what we're doing is we are interconnecting with everyone. We are strengthening the 5D layout for the 5D energetic grid. We do not stop there. The more we come into contact with, the more that we influence reality, because indeed everything is energy, like Tesla has shown us a very amazing example, but very many clues there to reference at this important time. So there is a method to the madness, if you will, a very important divine method.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things that you said, which I can relate to, you can come into contact with other human beings, other souls, whether you knew them or not, and there's some kind of exchange of something taking place. Also, I think, and it doesn't have to even be spoken about. It can just be like you said, you just come together and you just have a conversation or whatever. But I think also, I think of the places that we've crossed and the places that you've crossed on the Earth grid, and it's not like, looking back at it, it's not like we have to acknowledge each one of the grids. We're actually doing it by just going through that territory in that region. So
Exactly.
I think that's, in other words, the movement, I think, is a big deal, and the contact obviously is a big deal. But
It, it totally,
one of the things I wanted to ask you about in regard to that is, so I wouldn't call that an unconscious traveling path, or just more of an open, not overthinking it, and you're going across these places on the grid and meeting people. Have you had situations come up that namely are involving a triad, where maybe you and Sharon are connecting with someone consciously to do clearing and alignment and that type of thing? Have you had anything like that happen?
uh, yeah, totally. What occurred, for example, great occurrences while I was in Germany and met with a brother Yannick, and Sharon was back in New York. However, Sharon and I had physically met Yannick prior. We actually formed what you call a triad. So
Yeah.
Yannick and I was physically at the table, and we had, for what had come up, we called Sharon. So Sharon was on the table. And what come up, just to keep it simple, was it had to be done with the divine masculine to raise them a level. And what had to be done was for the masculine to overcome a certain fear of the feminine, and that had to be released. And we were not given any direction ahead of time. We're all acting on our soul. But
Yeah.
as it occurred and as it was completed, then I was receiving the downloads of what actually transpired for the
Yeah.
collective masculine. Yeah, so quite an example, and very real as well. The next day or so, uh, Sharon, I believe, she either put a post out to get feedback, or she was seeing it, how the masculine, with that
Yeah.
certain thing we were dealing with, were actually addressing it. It was coming into the awareness to be dealt with on, so many levels with the teachers and the healers. So yes, it's always a totally evident that what we are doing is very important and it's very authentic.
Yeah. Yeah, we've experienced that on issues, and I'm going to say just over the past few weeks since we got to the mainland on August the 8th. We've experienced elevations, collective expansion, or things that were brought up to be transmuted and transformed. Topics such as the false masculine, um, topics such as the war of the genders is over. Um, there's no more game playing, resentment. Uh, and so in this process, we do a lot of this stuff alone, but we've started to see where this triad's going to come into play. We actually had one yesterday, and it was very powerful. It was extremely powerful. There were dragons present, a lot of transformational energy. And again, not a lot was said. The three of us formed a triad. We went up into dimension, and we went through the guidance of our higher selves and multi-dimensional aspects to clear things, not necessarily being explained to the human aspect, but just knowing that it was being cleared. So
Yeah.
we've talked to some other people. Morgan's talked to another couple that's been doing the same thing and says this is what's happening, and they've been on that path for a while. One of the things we noticed today, we were extremely tired, like ridiculously tired and worn out, and we pretty much came to the conclusion that energetic triad that we were part of on yesterday took a lot of energy out of us in relation to the energy that we helped transform and what might have occurred within our bodies as a result. Do you have any thoughts on that?
What I did, I just received a confirmation that directly, yes, but I also feel it that yes, you needed rest from that huge energetic uh, input, what you were doing. Um, that is more so just, all that I received on that. And what I will say is that many of us, are working on these levels at doing things. However, we are all working as one, and each one has particular areas with parts of the collective as well. Um, so, what I guess there is always something done on an energetic level. Just with what you just shared, I'm not given what in particular was done with that, other than a confirmation, yes. But
Yeah.
we also, as you know, with everything we do, it's confirmed. We're not doing this from a delusional state or a guesswork or a speculation. When we do something, it is transitioned into our reality and we get the confirmation. So,
Yeah.
everyone contributes. There is no such thing of how small or how big, because nothing should be measured that way. Everyone is contributing.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's got a piece of the puzzle. And I think one of the things that's happening is slowly but surely, uh, at a steady pace, we're starting to become more conscious, I think, with more
Mhm.
confidence in what we're actually doing because it's been so out of the norm or so atypical compared to where we all came from. But there is, every day growing evidence and more people that are getting out here and doing this kind of stuff. And it doesn't make it wrong if you're not. I think it's just important to note that there's people out doing this. And I think what you said about weaving the web is very accurate. Uh, and I don't know about you, but on our end, the alignment that appears before us uh, is becoming so common and so strong and natural that it's still taking the human aspect a little bit of getting used to. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, you got to drop the human logic and human rationale from it. And this is an important way to get more into your soul work. because in actuality, the human experience here, it occurs on a lower dimensional level. And let's say 3D human logic does not apply to what we're doing.
Exactly.
3D science does not readily apply to what we're doing, although science is beginning to catch up. So it's best not to question what you're doing. It's best just to do it and go with the flow and trust it fully, because you're following your heart and you need that trust in your heart. That is your biggest discernment and guidance mechanism right now, until the consciousness opens more, and when we're able to share more of the divine truths throughout the world. So it's a transitional process. But having said that, 2 nights ago, we had a very immense shift that I was contacted divinely from divine counsel. Yes, and Father, yes, this is the truth. And I was instructed at that level to go a little bit deeper into the actual physics. And when I get up that morning, Greg Braden, which some of you may have seen on television shows, Ancient Aliens or the History Channel or Gaia TV, very important creational video, to give ones exactly the information that they needed to what they are doing at the energetic level in all things, with manifesting, with utilizing your powers. It explained about the charges, which is very important. So
Was this, you said that was a Greg Braden?
Yeah, Greg Braden, yes, a very intelligent man, and also a light one to provide us with good information here. Yes, Greg.
So
Double
he was talking about the charge. He was what in what terms was he talking about? Because that resonates.
Well, the terms is, see, your energetic field, let's look at it. And this is why negativity and fear is so important to eradicate. If you have lower density charges of polarity, to keep it at the simplest state, if you have someone that is negative all the time, well, they have a negative charge, they'll attract negative things to them. But getting more specifically into the fear spectrum, and getting into physics, every bit of energy has a charge. Every atomic particle has a charge. We, in the past, for one, just to be yin and yang, to be balanced, it meant that you had negative and positive. You had a balanced energetic field. But what's occurring now is the negative is actually a lower density substance. And what is negative is all of the fear spectrum: anger, hate, impatience, all of this. It's an actual energy that is negatively charged. So to come into your power, you are not allowed to create the new things when you still have a huge portion of negativity within your electric field. For the simple reason, we're here to create the new. That's why this process is so important at doing your inner work. So when you eradicate the negative, you rise in your power, because now it's positive, but it's also divinely supported that we create the new out of positivity. And this is how we change the world, by ridding all of the lower density negativity. There is a place of pure light, and we going towards that and creating it. We do not need the negative aspects, the dark aspects, the fear aspects. because of what energy is in the charge, in the density. This is what keeps you in this reality, is the negative charged particles.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And the other thing is, um, we look at you kind of look at the word positivity or positive thinking or positive things, and it gives it a certain connotation, but we're actually talking about shadows. We're talking about, you said, we can't go into this higher vibration or dimension if we have a bunch of negativity, which could also be defined as shadow, unconscious shadow, things we don't want to deal with, things we don't want to be responsible for. Yeah, I totally get that, and I like that word because somebody brought up last week. They were talking about charges, and you're right. There, if the in the physics of it, there is a positive and a negative charge, and sometimes we can explain that as dark and light, or good and bad, or right and wrong, or whatever.
Yes.
But it doesn't take away from the fact we're here to transform those negative charges, basically, because there is such a difference now, and it's so easier to see where our shadows are, or at least know they're there, admit they're there, be open to the fact that they're there. And then, of course, there's many, there's a lot of energy here now supporting us in our efforts and our desire to transform and to raise our vibration and the collective vibration. A lot of people are stepping up, like Morgan. Shadow work is starting to become more widely talked about, and people are more aware about it. Practitioners like her that have been doing this for years and years are starting to step up and be utilized. And there's other ways and means as well. But I like the fact that we can start talking about charges instead of some of these more polarizing words on each side of the spectrum. I think the physics point of view, the quantum physics point of view, is a good way to look at it, and makes it a little less personal and a little less painful as we deal with our shadows and start to transform ourselves.
Well, indeed, within the physical vessel as well, uh, if you're negatively charged, also pain is that, and you will create that and feel it more in your physical vessel. And, this is why where we're going, that you can reverse the aging process. You can do
Yeah.
so many amazing things with this body. And one of them, you can put yourself into a state that you don't feel pain. And that's
Yeah.
already been written in the timelines. There are certain individuals, even in the history, that don't feel pain, that were here upon the planet. But you can also put yourself into that level. Now, with the negative and the positive, you cannot sustain a higher dimensional existence when you have lower dimensional particles still within your energetic field.
Yeah.
Now, for intents and purposes of this ascension and showing you what is possible, many have
Yeah.
been put in other higher dimensional timelines, but you're sent back because you cannot go forward when you do not have this inner work done. You cannot sustain nor exist in a higher dimensional reality where physics are different than on the planet.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
in 3D and 4D, you like to have a balance. That is what you call harmony. But it's a harmony that is void of the magic and the higher creational
Yeah.
powers. So what we're doing now, uh, we're empowering and enhancing the co-creators. We don't need everyone upon the surface to have these abilities. Of one of the old rules of thumb, if you will, one very empowered, enlightened one affects a million. So, that gives you a gauge with your numbers of that you can use as a tentative gauge to let you know that one very powerful co-creator can affect million or even millions and more.
Wow.
And this is how we change the reality to what humanity wanted and what we desire. We no longer want the darkness, the sickness, and all of this poverty, inequality. It no longer serves in our hearts what we want. And this ascension is the assurance to take us out of these lower realities and the lower dimensional states of being.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And is there anything that I missed on the people that are out there traveling? Uh, is there anything that I missed as far as, what they're doing, what the purpose is of what they're doing? Does it have something to do with, for instance, the coordinates of a soul that may be, of a certain trajectory or illumination that is, to cast that or to work, operate as a conduit for others in certain areas that may need it? I mean, is there anything I missed on what's happening with these people doing the traveling?
Well, I could go much deeper. However, I'd rather not at this point to explain what is actually transpiring. What I
Yeah.
can say, as I mentioned generally before, where everyone is at geographically upon the surface of Gaia is important. And so, with this ascension and the levels that we are now at with the expansion of the consciousness, but also the enhancement of certain individuals' energetic fields, what we are actually also doing is we are creating the new ley lines of the planet with the 5D grid. And you can look at the 5D grid as being a beehive, if you wish to look at, the social behaviors of the insects like the bees and how they actually create, a comb. They all work together. So it's the same typical thing what's occurring, except we
Yeah.
are working with energy. Now, every ley line in the 3D, if you will, it dictates reality because every ley line, again, has a charge to it. And what was occurring in the past with the darkness, they knew where these sacred ley lines were. And, anyone, if you wish to look into it, you will see that the pyramids, all of these wonders of the world, if you were actually part of the 3D grid. And, that this information has been out there for years that you can actually take equilateral triangles and connect the dots all around Gaia.
Yeah.
This was part of the old energetic ley lines. But what the darkness had did, where many of the churches were built and many of the satanic sacrificial areas, they built them on these ley lines and they would perform satanic rituals, sacrifices, to instill fear to instill negativity into these ley lines because the charge of the ley lines influences the actual reality and events that would occur. But
Yeah.
also, anyone in proximity to these ley lines would be also affected by that charge. For
Yeah.
example, someone could be 2 miles from a negative charged ley line, and unbeknownst to them, they would perhaps feel tired all the time, or would be negative, or would always be acting in an angry way or out of some fear or emotion because of
Yeah.
this. And this also would depend on the degree of the individual to their sensitivity. For example, if they were an empath, that was powerful at that time, their sensations would be so much more powerful that if they were um, pretty pure at heart, they would not even be able to, physics would not dictate that they could be near that ley line and they would have to move. So with the 5D, what we are doing is that we are also constructing the new ley lines of the planet. And with the new ley lines of 5D, it is based on irregular shapes, and it's constantly changing and in flux, if you will, by a certain algorithm that cannot be compromised. So it's
Yeah.
a lot of different work that is going on. And when someone goes to another location, not only are they adding their energetic values, they are putting codes there, they are stabilizing ley lines until the whole 5D grid is intact and stable. And they're also, because ley lines, energetic electromagnetic ley lines dictates reality here on Gaia. And also because of that, anyone that is moving geographically around Gaia, they're also uh, entering part of their reality, their new timelines. And anyone that is doing that plays a very important role, not only in this now, but
Yeah.
in the
Yeah. Yeah. That
future.
resonates. Yeah. That
Yeah,
resonates a lot.
yeah.
Because if you think about it, it is all energy, and some of that energy was being utilized from a conscious level, for, let's just say, for the people that had the esoteric knowledge. So knowing that the grid basically provided the available energy for the realm, they injected the fear and all that stuff through these energetic um, rituals. And
Mhm.
so what's happening as I'm putting it together, talking to you and looking at my own situation and that of others, we were told, like in our role, uh, be together, love each other when you're together, and broadcast. And of course, the first one, if you can tie them all up and just say love each other. But I think the energy of that universal love, whether it's a Todd and Morgan, whether it's you and Sharon, whether it's friends, whether it's romantic, whether it's not romantic, doesn't really matter, because they're traveling around on that grid, and basically doing the opposite type of charge to the grid that these that held the esoteric secreted knowledge had been doing. Now we had a young man on the show last night for the second time. He was on last Sunday as well. 27 years old, and he's been in the game since he was 12. And one of the things that he talked about, which really made me get a better understanding or a clear understanding of what we're doing. And this example that you just gave us is a perfect example. And that is that we're in a program, inside the program, trying to break out of the program. In other words, there's a virtual program running inside the natural operating system that was plugged in. That false reality, if you want to put it that way. It's a lot like that old movie Tron from the 80s with Jeff Bridges, where they go into the computer game. And so imagine that you're in the computer game living by those rules. And how do you break out of that program or break through that program if all you know is what's provided by that program? And he went on to explain that the way we were able to do this was that we were able to reach telepathically to our higher selves, to our multidimensional aspects, to source eventually. Uh, and through that communication, bringing it into the program is the antidote virus that's offsetting and breaking this code. So this type of example is a literal example of that, because these people, such as yourself, are injecting a positive charge into the grid to counter and turn the tide on the existing charge on the grid. And you said one other thing too, which maybe you can touch on it again, because over the last 2-3 days I saw some pretty wild sacred geometry, multi-dimensional looking sacred geometry that was doing a lot of spinning and movement. But you said that I guess the way that the grid's laid out is a new type of geometry or new type of math, new types of shapes and that type of thing. Has that already been put in? Or are we putting that in as we go?
Let me say that the primary nodules have all, yes, have all been in place. What we are currently working on is what you could call the quadri, the tertiary, and the secondary nodules. So an actual ley line grid is actually quite complex. So it's like a spider web. However, what you have is you have the main frame, which are much much stronger energetic lines, but then you have all of the interconnections and like a spider web is what you have to it. So also one way you can look at it is more increase in their energetic being, then also we connect with those in whatever geographical location that they may be in, and this is the knitting of the network altogether. But it's quite more. It's the dynamics of what really occurs is much more complex, but you can look at it this way. Getting back to the young man you had on the other night, you know, that is a great perspective and analogy. There are so many ways you can look at what we're doing with this, and every way is correct because every perspective is correct. It's an actual metaphor or a message of what is going on. It's a perspective, but it's all correct.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, I think it's important to remember as time goes on, we can get more acclimated with what we're really dealing with here, which is it's all energy. Your energy, I'm energy, everything we're seeing is energy. It's an energy game. And I think it's allowing us to get more comfortable with it if we can begin to look at things as metaphoric, especially those things that take on a very 3D physical matter reality, you know, which has been most of our life, most of what we thought was the bulk of our existence and consciousness. So everything we're looking at is energy. We're energy. We're starting to, you know, get more acclimated with that and starting to realize that everything we're seeing is giving us a metaphoric message in some way or another. And I think people are starting to be able to read the terrain day by day, moment by moment, especially, you know, given what you were talking about with the charges and that type of thing, and the impulses that we put out from our own souls. And that is when one or two or three start doing it, like you said, the effect is much greater than on one or two or three other souls. It's on 1 or 2 or 3 million other souls.
Indeed, and you know that's why everything is expediting with this ascension. And you know you can look at one's, let's say, use the example of someone awakening today. Very quickly, they excel and they get caught up to date. Let's say within a year. And if you take a comparison, you know, back to 20 years, there's been some that have been awake, you know, for 20 years. And there's been some that have did their inner work and worked on themselves, you know, for many years, perhaps 10, but very quickly now, because of more that are awakened, the information is readily accessible and available that when one does go down the rabbit hole in the beginning of their awakening, very quickly, because of the beautiful internet and more beautiful souls being around, there is someone there that can assist them immediately. And, also the internet. So
Yeah.
it's all divinely assured that it's this way, but it's expediting this ascension process. And literally, at this point, what the ascension process can be referred to is preparing these organic vessels to exist in other dimensions, to
Absolutely.
portals, and
Yeah.
to exist in other realities. And that's also part of this human experience and what it's about. And to do that, the lower density particles and way of being have to be let go. Each
Yeah.
one was assigned their inner work to transition their energetic emotions and their energetic actions, reactions, and what have you. And it is the pure of heart that does matter. As we know, love is the most powerful energy that is known, and
Yeah.
it changes everything, and that's a reality. And having that untainted love, unconditional love, is one of the building blocks to doing your inner work and begin your process of uh, changing your energetic field, your state of being, to fully positive and
Yeah.
accepting and knowing. It's so easy, as I said, to say this. This is what each needs to do
Yeah.
to prepare themselves. However, it is an individual process. Some can do it very quickly. Others takes, you know, uh, perhaps a year or more. But then again, everything is divinely perfect because we have the overall divine plan, and everyone is always in the right place where they need to be. They are in the right place for when they're ready to receive the right information that they need to take them to another level, for instance. So it's
Yeah.
all divinely assured. The only thing we're dealing with, because of ones that still have a lot or some negativity in the lower density um, uh, part of their energetic field. So what we're dealing with is linear time. But what we
Yeah.
have found, we are not restricted to linear time. For
Yeah.
example, when I'm not down here assisting others in a 4D level, time is not the same for I, it's not the same for you, and it's not the same for many. It's because even though I can be up here, I cannot go higher until the rest go. We
Yeah.
made a sort of a contract at the soul level that we all go together. So what I do is I get right back down to the bottom and I keep pushing up because my freedom as a soul is not attained until we all go as
Yeah.
well.
Right on. And I think, one way to, maybe um, give some perspective on it, and maybe even simplify it, is to understand that the best thing we can do to break through this thing, if you want to, we go back to that metaphor, is for us to connect to the higher self and and through the higher self, the multidimensional aspects, source, whatever you want to call it, and continue to do the work on ourselves, because it has a transformational charge, a positive charge in the illumination of our soul, and therefore it feeds that grid that you were talking about earlier. We got just a few minutes, and I wanted to ask you. With these dates coming up, and I'm not big on the dates, and I really like to just get off the calendar altogether. But there seems every month this year has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's been a little bit mysterious because you go through one and the next one comes and it just turns you on your head and blows your mind. This has been an incredible period through the first part of December. After 2 incredible months in October, November, we've got we just passed this 12/3. Today's a 9. We got 12/12. It's going to be a full moon at 12:12 a.m. on 12/12 on the East Coast of the United States in EST. And then you got, of course, the solstice coming. And then, of course, the first of the year, and then 11, 1/11. And here we go again. What do you see happening over the next 30 days? What do we need to look out for? What can you tell us?
Okay, nothing but good things and stronger occurrences with everything we do. Let me say the 13th will be a very high energetic day with many reflections of good change within the reality and the timelines we are currently on. What is transpiring with all of these dates as we progress forward? You are seeing more heightened energetic values is because the co-creators you create by your belief, but where your energy has become stronger and your belief also has become stronger, it is also on the dates like the solstice is creating a much bigger energetic effect than any time previous, because you have everyone that is actually strengthening, and we do influence reality. For example, your little space there, when you're totally positive, it's a complete harmonious place. You have that effect upon it. So it's the same sort of effect with all of the co-creators. Also with their belief in being positive is creating very heightened events in the least. And this also is what impacts reality and creates rapid change, which we are doing. And what I can say, nothing stops us on this material world. We are the ones to change everything. We are the co-creators. And, as we said, it is happening. However, very importantly, because many have become so strong that yes, these certain dates, you do influence them. It is very real, not only because of the belief, but because also more that are awakening are paying attention to it. So what we actually do is we bring into existence high energetic events as one of the results.
Yeah. Right on. Right on. Good stuff, man. We can't go this long to talk again. So do you know when you're coming back to North America, and will you be coming into the U.S.?
Tentatively, Todd, what I was given, I need to go to Jerusalem, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, then India, Indonesia, then Australia, then back to North America. And brother, don't ask me how long that will take. I had anticipated that I would have been maybe in India now. I want to get this done.
I have a feeling you're going to be on the road all of 2020, just like we are. But I would imagine we're going to pass you somewhere in the world at some point, at some level.
We'll see what transpires. What I will say on this physical vessel, what we were doing when Sharon was there is, it's pretty tiresome. We were putting in a lot of miles just driving, and a lot of that done in the nighttime. And I did not anticipate that I would be in Europe yet today. When I was told divinely to come here, oh, is that a butterfly come? I see him in the background. Anyhow, maybe it's from Gaia.
Stuff up, man.
So, but having said that, Todd, I don't project or plan into
Yeah.
the future. Again,
Yeah.
I surrender fully to what Father
Yeah.
tells me to do, and I follow.
That's right, man. That's what we got to just keep doing. We've come this far. There's no turning back now. Let's touch base
No,
again. And let's touch base again
I'll
toward,
say
huh?
I'll say this: we do not go back, and you cannot go back.
You can try. You're going to have a hard time. You're going to have a hard time if you do. If you don't,
Yeah,
this is kind of like keeping up, like in the army, like keeping up when you go on those marches. I never did it, but you can't even slow down now, or you're going to get hammered. But no, it's all good. There's a lot of good things happening. I appreciate what you're doing. I'm glad to connect with you. Tell Sharon happy birthday, happy Earth Day, happy every day, whatever you want to call it. All right.
indeed. Well, it's been great to be here, brother. And what I'm saying is that we're all playing, yeah, an important role, and especially you and Morgan, and all the beautiful souls that you come into contact with, but also your broadcasting here. Um, with the energy from all that you have on your shows, and it's making a huge difference, and it's beautiful that you have your platform out there, for assisting all, and it's making a huge divine difference. And as we discussed before, we all have our roles to play
That's
here.
right.
However, we are all working together to make this happen, and everyone is important. Everyone is so valuable with
That's
this.
right.
One thing, Father, just give me before I go. It's important for, I put out the other day, but it's important for the crystal children to be connected with each other in whatever way. We need that networking occurring. So if you can ask perhaps questions with any more of your guests, but that's important to bring that up. These are the future
That's
generations
right.
that need to get all interconnected now, need to be out of to whatever degree out of the public school
Yeah.
systems, or the
Yeah.
public school systems have to transition to empower them, whatever way it works, but they need to be all interconnected at this time.
Yeah. We're with you on that. We're starting to get some kids in here and some dialogue. Kids for
Oh,
Conscious
excellent.
Living had us on the show the other day. I mean, it's happening. That's part of it. Yeah. We should touch
Oh, great.
base. Right at the end of the month before, post solstice, before the new year, and just see and if we can. But for us, it always just is hit me up and
Yeah,
you take care, man. I got to run to the
yeah.
next show. Peace
13th, the
out.
big day.
All right,
Woo!
all right,
Peace and
brother.
love you all, and thank you, and have a beautiful evening.
You too, man.